Okay, so I think it's time to admit I've got a little bit of a problem. What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music. Once again, I'm back with another recent record pickups video, and I have good reason to. Recently, while digging around on Amazon, I discovered that a lot of records from one of my favorite record labels, Street Corner Music, had a ton of stuff on sale. And while I'd already done a order through one of my favorite online record stores, Shop Jet Set, I couldn't resist the opportunity to catch up on some Street Corner Music goodies. So I got quite a few records, so many so that I kind of forgot some of the records that I bought this time. But I've gone through a couple of them, and I think I got some real gems that are worth sharing. So with that being said, let's talk about these guys. So first off, we got a house record, my first one in a while. This is Cassian. I'm not entirely sure. The Premise EP on Heist Recordings released last year. I picked this up because, once again, this was a Jet Set demonstration copy. It was cheap, and I could always use some more house music in my life. So I don't really remember what this sounds like. I heard it back when it first came out last year, but I haven't really listened to it since, so this is gonna be kind of like listening to it again for the first time. So yeah, that was pretty badass. I completely forgot about this record, but man, this is some really good, funky, deep house shit. I'm glad I picked it up. I'm glad that it was cheap, and if you ever run across this guy, definitely pick it up. Alright, so secondly, I picked up a compilation that I know very little about. I picked it up based on two factors. One, I was looking for some more instrumental underground hip-hop, and two, I picked it up because a producer, or a couple of producers rather, that I'm familiar with are featured on this compilation. Guys like Sir Frodrick, Fitz Ambrose, and Ilsugi all pop up on this compilation. So I figured it was worth checking out. And once again, since I sort of bought it on a whim, I really don't remember what this sounds like, so this should be interesting. So from just those two tracks, I can tell that this is going to be a pretty varied listen. I'm really looking forward to giving it a listen all the way through. Should be some really good shit. I'm kind of excited to give this guy a listen because it's the one record that I know close to nothing about, so it's probably going to have quite a few surprises in store. Alright, so next up, we have Anderson .Paak's newest album, Ventura. This is the album that I wanted Anderson .Paak to make. I've already actually listened to this guy all the way through, and I absolutely love it. And as a result of listening to this, I ended up going back and listening to Oxnard recently. And I had originally dismissed Oxnard as just being too much of a Dr. Dre project for me because I'm not really the biggest fan of Dre, especially in a lot of his late 2000s production sort of stuff. But in the end, I actually came around on it, and I found I quite like Oxnard, but not nearly as much as this guy. Well, originally I was expecting this record to just be sort of a Anderson .Paak take on some straight up soul music, and as it turns out, it's actually pretty varied, pretty similar to his Malibu album. I can't wait to actually sit down and give this record a full-on listen and share my thoughts and opinions of it later, but honestly, I quite like this album, and it seems like I like it a lot more than the general consensus seems to be about it. But I still recommend, if you're a fan of Anderson .Paak, check out any of his albums and definitely give this one a listen. Alright, so finally we get to the meat and potatoes of this episode, and that would be all the Street Corner Music records. So Street Corner Music has been one of my go-to labels for instrumental hip-hop for a very long time. I think House Shoes' roster of producer between himself, Wildflower, Foisey, and a whole host of other producers who have released music on his label is at this point basically untouchable. And to kick things off, we're gonna start off with the one and only 7-inch this time around, and that is the House Shoes The Makings and Newport 7-inch that he put out earlier this year. Really always happy to hear new music from House Shoes because I think he's kind of underrated as a producer. I think maybe I might have heard some of these beats before from a tape project that he put out years ago before Let It Go came out. So we'll see if I recognize him. Yep. It was exactly what I thought it was. I love the beats from that Makings mixtape that he put out a while back. There were a lot of rappers on it that I was sort of ho-hum about, but I was always into the instrumentals on that. So I'm really happy to have some of the beats from that project. As I've said before, I'm always happy to get more music, specifically instrumentals from House Shoes, because I think he's a obscenely underrated producer. Super happy to have this in my collection. Definitely looking forward to checking out Big Shoes at a later date this year, but for now, this should probably hold me over. All right, let's get the record that I've already listened to out of the way. First, we've got Wildflower's Fever Dream. I believe this actually came out on Wildflower's Bandcamp last year, but it got a vinyl release this year. This record, from the first listen that I've given it, seems like a perfect continuation of his album from 2017, Balloons, in that it's like he describes his own music, a beautiful mix of ambient pop meets hip-hop. I'd say he's kind of like a modern day Boards of Canada in some ways, because there's some really rich atmospheric texture in this record. And even though I've only given it one listen all the way through, I'm loving this record, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorites of 2019. So let's check it out. As you can hear, there's a lot of really uneasy synths in there. There's some really uneasy atmosphere that's vaguely reminiscent of Boards of Canada, Gio Gotti. But I still feel like Wildflower stands on his own and has some really interesting textures, some really interesting beats. I can't wait to actually share my full thoughts and opinions of this record with you guys. But as it stands right now, yeah, if you haven't checked out Wildflower Fever Dream, this is easily one of my favorite new projects from Street Corner Music. Alright, so for these last three records, we got Jake 1, Prayer Hands, we got Scud 1, T. White, Steven Tyler, and then we have Exit, Arts and Crafts. Now, all three of these records I have not listened to yet. Okay, that's actually kind of a lie. I've listened to a little bit of the Jake 1. But I'm pretty much going into these records blind. So I figured I'd give you a Street Corner Music first impressions, reaction video, whatever, right here and now, and let you know what I think. So we're gonna start off with Exit, Arts and Craft. I'm just gonna pick a track at random and see how I feel about it. All right, we're going with the B-side, and we're going right down the middle. Okay, so I think I just played the track Drums from the B-side of this record. Yeah, this is gonna be good. All right, next up, we're gonna go with the Scud 1 and T. White. I know a little bit about T. White. His Gift record that he put out is still one of my favorite records from the label. Scud 1, I don't really know anything about, but going based purely on the name recognition of T. White, I figured this is probably gonna be a pretty cool record. So let's give it a listen. So we're going with the A-side. I'm just gonna, once again, drop it right down the middle. See what happens. I feel like it's sort of unfair to base my opinion, my initial thoughts on a record based purely on one song, but I have a feeling that this is gonna be a nice, hard-hitting instrumental hip-hop record, and I can't wait to give this record a full-on listen. And then lastly, we get to Jake One, who is a producer who I am fairly familiar with, although probably not as familiar with as I should be. I know a lot of his production mostly through the sort of Mayer Hawthorne tuxedo stuff. I'm not as familiar with a lot of his beats, but from everything I've seen in terms of interviews and like his Rhythm Roulette episode, he seems like a pretty dedicated producer, and he definitely seems like he has a style all his own. So I'm looking forward to checking this guy out. I'm gonna keep the trend going of dropping it right down the middle and seeing what I get. So here we go. So, yeah, as I expected, record slaps pretty hard. Really looking forward to checking it out. I definitely feel like there's gonna be some stuff on here that I'm gonna want to play out. And it seems like there's sort of a gospel, or at least gospel-y sort of edge to this record. That should make it pretty cool, so pretty soulful. And yeah, don't know what else to say other than initial impressions. This is gonna be a good one. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've checked out any of these records that I've talked about in this video, please let me know down in the comments what you thought about them. If you want to hear any of these records for yourself, please go over to my WordPress or Steemit blogs, because that's where I'll be posting audio links to any of the records that I talk about in these videos and on this channel. And as always, please head over to Raw Select Radio over on Mixcloud, the audio component of this YouTube channel, and that's where you can hear a lot of the records that I talk about in these videos, as well as a lot more records that I have in my collection that I haven't gotten around to talking about on this channel. Links for everything, as always, guys, down in the description. But that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and yeah, that's all I got to say, so I'll catch you in the next video. So until then, peace out!